A brutal winter storm had buried Chicago beneath ice when billionaire Daniel Whitmore gathered 3 wealthy women inside his mansion and asked his 6-year-old son to choose one of them as his new mother. Daniel's cancer had returned, and he feared Noah would be left alone if he died. The candidates arrived in designer dresses, carrying expensive gifts and perfect smiles, but Noah ignored them all. His eyes searched only for Emily Carter, the poor maid in the faded blue uniform who comforted him after nightmares, remembered his allergies, and loved him without asking for anything. Then came the final test. While cleaning Noah's bedroom, Emily opened a stuck drawer and found a tiny silver bracelet. Her hands began to shake. Engraved across it were the words, "E.C. My Little Miracle." It was the bracelet she had placed on her newborn son 6 years earlier, just before losing consciousness during childbirth. Her father later told her the baby had died. But the bracelet was now inside the billionaire's son's room. When Emily demanded answers, Daniel's mother accused her of planting it to steal the family fortune. The 3 candidates laughed at the idea that a servant could be Noah's mother. Daniel ordered Emily away from the boy until a DNA test could prove the truth. The cruelest part was that Noah stood behind the locked door, crying for the mother everyone insisted he did not have. Subscribe and stay with this story, because the woman Daniel invited into his home to clean the floors may be the same woman he once loved, lost, and unknowingly raised a child with. Emily Carter had spent 6 years grieving a son she believed was buried. Daniel Whitmore had spent those same years believing Noah's mother was dead. And somewhere in Chicago, the man who had lied to them both was preparing to disappear before the truth destroyed him. By morning, the storm had weakened, but the Whitmore mansion still felt cut off from Chicago. Ice covered the windows, and every room carried the tension of a decision no one wanted to discuss. Daniel Whitmore stood in his study as pain tightened beneath his ribs. When it passed, he folded the medical report and locked it away. Noah could not know the cancer had returned. Not yet. A knock sounded. "Mr. Whitmore, the guests are here," Emily Carter said. Her faded blue uniform was neatly pressed. "Have them wait in the sitting room." Emily hesitated. "All 3? That was the arrangement." She nodded, but Daniel saw the concern in her eyes. "You disagree? A child should not have to test women to see who deserves to love him. This is not a game. It has candidates and a winner. It also has a deadline." Before Emily could reply, 6-year-old Noah ran into the hall wearing one sock and dragging a wooden airplane. "Emily, I lost the other one." She reached beneath a bench and held it up. "You left it here after breakfast." Noah smiled. "You always know." Daniel watched her pull it over his son's foot. Noah leaned toward her with complete trust. "Go wait in the library," Daniel said. Noah glanced toward the sitting room. "Is Emily staying?" "I have work to do," she answered gently. His disappointment was immediate. In the sitting room, Sophia Reynolds wore a cream designer dress. Vanessa Cole took pictures until Margaret Whitmore told her to put away her phone. Isabella Grant had brought expensive children's books tied with a blue ribbon. Margaret said, "This process remains private. There will be no press and no discussion of the family's money." "Of course," Sophia said, "this is about Noah." But she looked at Daniel, not the boy. Vanessa crouched before Noah. "Do you remember me, handsome?" He stepped away. Isabella offered him the books. "I chose these for you." "Did you read them?" "Not yet." "Then, how do you know they're good?" Daniel nearly smiled. He explained that the women would stay for several weeks. They would share meals, care for Noah, attend school events, cook, and handle household duties without assistance. The final choice would not be Daniel's alone. "Noah's opinion matters most," he said. Vanessa laughed. "A 6-year-old decides your future? He decides who enters his." The room fell silent. Emily entered with coffee and hot chocolate. She placed Noah's cup down with the handle turned away from his injured finger. When he said it was too hot, Vanessa told him to wait. Emily quietly added cold milk and tested it before returning it. Sophia watched. "How long have you worked here?" 11 months. "And you care for him too?" "When needed." Margaret answered coldly. "Emily is part of the household staff." Emily lowered her eyes and left. The first task was simple. Each woman would spend 1 hour alone with Noah, while Daniel and Margaret observed nearby. Sophia chose a puzzle but became irritated when Noah finished too quickly. Vanessa played music, then answered messages. Isabella read one of her books, but when Noah asked why the boy in the story was sad, she told him not to interrupt. By late afternoon, Noah had disappeared. Daniel found him beneath the grand piano with his knees against his chest. "What are you doing? Hiding? From whom?" "All of them. You need to give them a chance. They don't like me. They barely know you. They like you. And this house." The truth struck harder than Daniel expected. Thunder rolled over the frozen lake. Noah covered his ears and crawled deeper beneath the piano. Daniel reached for him, but the boy pulled away. Emily appeared in the doorway. She sat on the floor and began humming a soft lullaby. Within moments, Noah crawled out and pressed himself against her. Daniel watched in silence. Margaret entered and stiffened. This attachment is becoming inappropriate. Emily stopped humming. Noah wrapped both arms around her. "Don't make her go." Margaret looked at Daniel, waiting for him to restore the boundary between servant and family. He glanced down the hall. Sophia, Vanessa, and Isabella stood together, but none had followed Noah when he vanished. For the first time, Daniel wondered whether he had invited the wrong women into his home. That night, Margaret ordered Emily to stay away during the next test. Emily accepted without argument, but Noah overheard. As she headed toward the servants' staircase, he ran after her. "You're not leaving, are you?" "Not tonight." "Promise?" Emily touched his cheek. "I'll be here when you wake up." Noah whispered. "Then I already know who I want." Daniel heard him. So did Sophia. Noah went upstairs, believing the choice was simple. Sophia remained in the shadows, staring at Emily with open hostility. The poor maid had never entered the competition, yet she had already become the only woman Noah trusted, and the one person the others now needed to remove. Sophia did not sleep much that night. Long after the mansion fell quiet, she watched Emily cross the snowy courtyard toward the staff wing. The maid carried folded linens against her chest, unaware that someone 3 floors above had already decided she was a threat. By 7 the next morning, Daniel had arranged the first practical test. Each candidate would manage Noah's routine from the moment he woke until he reached school. No assistants, no calls to the staff, and no help from Emily. Sophia went first. She entered Noah's room with a printed schedule and ordered him to dress quickly. He rejected the gray sweater she chose because it scratched his skin. She replaced it with a stiff white shirt and fastened the cuff so roughly that he pulled away. At breakfast, she served yogurt and mixed berries. "I can't eat those," Noah said. "They're organic." "I'm allergic." Daniel stepped forward before he touched the bowl. The allergy was clearly listed in the folder each woman had received. "I thought it was only raspberries," Sophia said. "It says mixed berries," Daniel replied. "The mistake was yours." Vanessa's turn began the following day. She let Noah choose his clothes, then spent 15 minutes photographing him. On the drive to school, he asked her to stop. "I'm saving memories," she said. "They're my memories." Vanessa lowered her phone only because Daniel had heard him. Isabella performed better. She packed Noah's books, remembered his allergies, and reached school on time. But Daniel later found a note she had given his teacher. "Please contact me directly regarding future school events. I expect to become Noah's primary parent soon." "You do not speak for my son," Daniel told her. "I was showing initiative. You are claiming a place you haven't earned." While the candidates struggled, Emily obeyed Margaret's order and kept her distance. She cleaned the west wing and organized the laundry room, but she still noticed when Noah returned without eating lunch and rubbed his thumb against his palm, the habit that appeared whenever he was anxious. At dinner, he barely touched his food. Emily crossed the room carrying a tray, and the tension left his face the moment he saw her. Sophia noticed, perhaps the staff should not pass through during family meals. Emily stopped. Daniel's expression hardened. "Emily works here. She does not need your permission to enter. I only thought Noah needed fewer distractions." "Emily isn't a distraction," Noah said. Margaret changed the subject, but all 3 women understood the real problem. Winning Daniel would not be enough. Noah had already trusted someone else. The second test required them to clean a guest room, wash clothes, and prepare the space for a child staying overnight. Daniel wanted to see how they treated work they normally paid others to perform. Vanessa poured too much water onto the floor, slipped, and blamed the wax. Sophia mixed white towels with dark fabrics, then blamed the machine when the colors bled. Isabella cleaned carefully while Daniel watched. As soon as he left, she ordered a junior housekeeper to finish. Emily found the young woman crying near the pantry with blisters on her hands. Miss Grant said I had to finish before Mr. Whitmore returned. Go treat your hands, Emily said. I'll speak to him. Isabella denied the accusation until a hallway camera confirmed it. I was testing her, she argued. You were exploiting her, Daniel said. Margaret called it one poor decision. Daniel looked toward Emily in her worn uniform. Character is clearest when people believe no one important is watching. That afternoon, Noah found Emily folding linens. Are they making you leave? No. They don't like you. That doesn't mean I should be unfair to them. Noah climbed onto a chair. Would you marry my dad? The sheet slipped from her hands. Why would you ask that? Because then you could stay. I can stay without marrying anyone. Not forever. The certainty in his voice unsettled her. The cooking challenge took place on Saturday. Daniel asked each woman to prepare a meal that felt like home. They could use the pantry, but could not order food or request help. Sophia attempted chicken enchiladas she had never made. Vanessa burned cheese sauce while answering a video call. Isabella offered a kitchen assistant $500 to cook a roast chicken for her. The assistant refused and reported it. By noon, smoke filled the kitchen, a pan had cracked, and Noah sat at the counter with his chin in his hands. Can I have cereal? You should appreciate our effort, Sophia said. I appreciate cereal. Daniel hid a smile. Sophia's filling was undercooked. Vanessa's pasta had hardened into a block. Isabella's chicken was unsafe to serve. Home is supposed to taste better than this, Noah said. After the challenge, Emily found him waiting in the kitchen. There's soup in the staff refrigerator. Did you make it? She warmed a bowl of chicken soup with noodles, carrots, celery, and lemon. Noah tasted it and became still. What is it? Emily asked. It feels familiar. Maybe you've eaten something like it. No, it feels like I remember it from before I could remember. Daniel entered and saw the empty bowl. I told everyone not to help during the test. The test was finished, Emily replied. He was hungry. Daniel looked at the ruined dishes behind them. You made the right decision. Sophia heard him from the doorway. The next test came from Noah. Daniel asked him to prepare questions for the candidates. They gathered in the library while the boy sat with a notebook on his knees. If I wake up sick at 3 a.m, what would you do? Sophia said she would call the doctor. Vanessa would alert the staff. Isabella promised to stay beside him. If my dad lost all his money, would you still marry him? Sophia said love mattered more. Vanessa insisted Daniel could never lose everything. Isabella said strong families survived anything. Noah looked at his father. They didn't answer. No, Daniel said. They didn't. His final question silenced the room. If my dad died, would you still want me? Of course, Isabella said. Even if you got none of his money? She paused too long. That evening, Daniel found Noah on the back stairs. What if none of them are right, the boy asked. Then we keep looking. What if the right person is already here? Daniel knew whom he meant. Before he answered, Emily appeared with Noah's inhaler, which he had left by the door. She handed it over and returned to work. 2 days later, the mansion woke to panic. Noah had developed a fever during the night. By breakfast, his skin was flushed, his breathing shallow, and a red rash had spread along his neck. Vanessa suggested a cold bath. Sophia searched symptoms online. Isabella opened a bottle of children's medicine. Emily entered. Stop. He can't take that. It's made for children, Isabella said. It contains an ingredient he reacted to last spring. Margaret frowned. How do you know? Because I was here. Emily found Noah's rescue inhaler, called the pediatrician, and followed the doctor's instructions while an ambulance was sent. Daniel returned from an early meeting to find Emily beside the bed, counting Noah's breaths. The candidates stood several feet away. At the hospital, the doctor confirmed the medicine Isabella had chosen could have worsened the reaction. Noah was discharged that evening, weak but stable. In the car, he leaned against Emily and fell asleep. For the first time, Margaret saw that Noah's safety had depended not on wealth, education, or polish, but on the woman she had dismissed as staff. The next morning, Daniel gathered everyone in the library. "This process was meant to reveal who could protect Noah when I could not," he said. "Yesterday, only one person did. Emily already knew his medical history," Sophia argued. "That is hardly fair. Motherhood is not fair," Daniel replied. "It is responsibility before convenience." Vanessa asked whether the competition was over. "No, but the terms are changing." Daniel turned to Emily. "I want you included in the remaining tests." Margaret called the idea reckless. Isabella accused Emily of manipulating Noah. Sophia said allowing a servant to compete was humiliating. Emily remained near the door. "I never asked for this." "I know," Daniel said. "That may be the strongest reason to ask you." She looked at Noah. Hope filled his face, but fear was there too. If she refused, one of those women might become responsible for him. "I will participate for Noah," she said. "Not for your money, your name, or this house." Sophia gave a cold laugh. "That is what women say before they want everything." Emily held her gaze. "Then the next test should reveal which of us is lying." The following afternoon, Noah disappeared from the garden. A side gate stood open. Snow was beginning to fall, and the temperature had dropped sharply. Security searched the grounds. Vanessa ran toward the fountain. Isabella called the police. Sophia insisted he had hidden inside. Emily studied the small footprints beside the hedge. He went to the old playhouse. Daniel followed her across the frozen lawn. They found Noah curled beneath a blanket inside the wooden structure. Emily knelt. "Why did you run?" Isabella said if she wins, you'll have to leave. Noah gripped her sleeve. "I don't want a new mother. I want you." Daniel carried him back to the mansion. At the door, he turned to Emily. "Tomorrow, you begin the final round." Neither of them saw Sophia watching from the second-floor window. She had failed every test that mattered, but she still believed she could win. Before Emily entered Noah's room for her first official challenge, Sophia made certain one particular drawer would be waiting for her. The next morning, Emily entered Noah's bedroom as an official candidate for the first time. The room looked the same, but her place inside it had changed. Until now, she had cleaned it as an employee. Today, Daniel expected her to arrange it as someone who might one day belong to Noah's family. Her task was simple: make the room safer and more comforting without asking the staff for help. Emily lowered the nightlight so Noah could reach it from bed, placed his inhaler on the bedside table, and created a reading corner near the window. Noah sat on the rug building a wooden airplane. "You already know where everything goes," he said. "I know where you usually leave everything." "That's almost the same thing." Emily smiled, then noticed the lowest dresser drawer standing slightly open. She was certain she had closed it the night before. "What do you keep in there?" "Old things. Dad says they belong to my mom." Emily tried to push the drawer shut, but it jammed. When she pulled it back, something fell behind the dresser with a faint metallic sound. She reached into the narrow space and found a dust-covered velvet box. Inside was a silver bracelet made for a newborn. On the small plate, the engraving was faded but clear. "E.C., my little miracle." Emily's breath caught. 6 years earlier, she had spent most of her savings ordering that bracelet. She wanted her unborn son to own one beautiful thing. After giving birth, she remembered a nurse placing the baby beside her. Emily had slipped the bracelet around his wrist and whispered that he was her miracle. Then she lost consciousness. When she woke, Frank was beside the hospital bed. He told her the baby had stopped breathing. He refused to let her see the body, claiming the doctors had handled everything. Emily had believed him because grief left no room for questions. Now the same bracelet trembled in her hands. "Where did this come from?" she asked. Noah pointed toward the drawer. "Dad gave it to me. He said it was from my birth mother." Before she could answer, Daniel entered with Margaret and the 3 candidates. Sophia looked directly at the open drawer. Daniel saw the bracelet and stopped. "Where did you find that?" "Behind the dresser," Emily said. "Who gave it to you?" "The man who brought Noah to me. He said it was the only thing Noah's mother left." "What was his name?" Daniel hesitated. "Frank." The bracelet slipped from Emily's fingers. "My father is Frank Carter." Sophia folded her arms. How convenient. Emily ignored her. Describe him. Daniel mentioned a scar near the left eyebrow and the Chicago Cubs cap he always wore. Every detail belonged to her father. He told me my son died, Emily whispered. Noah stared at her. Your son? Margaret immediately sent him into the hallway with a housekeeper. He resisted until Emily promised she would speak to him later. Once the door closed, Margaret faced her. You expect us to believe your dead child's bracelet appeared here by chance? I ordered it myself. Or you researched Noah's history. I did not know Daniel was his father. Sophia gave a cold laugh. A maid enters a competition and discovers a family secret during her first test. That sounds planned. Emily turned to Daniel. There is a serial number beneath the clasp. The jeweler will have the original record. She found an old photograph on her phone. It showed the bracelet inside the same box, beside a receipt carrying her name. The serial numbers matched. Daniel's expression changed, though doubt remained. This proves the bracelet was yours, Margaret said. It does not prove Noah is your child. Then test us. No one spoke. Emily held Daniel's gaze. Run a DNA test on me and Noah. Daniel's jaw tightened. I will not let an accusation turn his life into a public spectacle. I am asking for the truth, not publicity. The test will be private, he said. Until the results return, you stay away from him. The order hurt more than the accusations. From the hallway came Noah's voice. Dad, don't make her leave. Emily moved toward the door, but Margaret stopped her. Daniel looked torn, yet he did not reverse the decision. No one tells Noah anything until we know. Emily placed the bracelet in his palm. I spent 6 years mourning a child I was never allowed to bury. If Noah is that child, every day we lost was stolen. That evening, Emily went to Frank's apartment. He opened the door only a few inches. The moment she showed him the bracelet's photograph, the color left his face. Where did you get that? From Noah Whitmore's room. Frank tried to shut the door, but Emily pushed it open. You told me my baby died. He did. Then why does Daniel Whitmore's son have the bracelet I placed on him? Frank looked toward the stairwell, as though he expected someone to appear. Emily understood before he confessed. An innocent man would have been confused. Her father was terrified. A car door slammed in the street below. Frank seized her wrist and pulled her inside. You have no idea what you just uncovered, he whispered before locking the door. Frank kept one hand on the deadbolt and the other around Emily's wrist. His apartment smelled of stale smoke, old coffee, and fear. Let go of me, Emily said. He released her and moved to the window. A black sedan idled across the street, its headlights cutting through the sleet. Who is out there? You should never have returned to that mansion. That mansion belongs to the man raising my son. You don't know that yet. I know you lied. Frank poured whiskey into a chipped glass, but his hand shook so badly that half spilled onto the counter. Did you take my baby from the hospital? He said nothing. Did you tell Daniel Whitmore I was dead? Frank finally looked at her. I told him what would make him take the boy. The confession came quietly, making it even crueler. Emily struggled to breathe. You sold him. I saved him. He grew up with doctors, schools, and everything you could never provide. You never gave me a chance. You were 23, broke and alone. I had a job. You had tips from a diner. I had a son. Frank slammed down the glass. You would have stayed home with that baby, stopped working, and left me with every debt. The truth was finally exposed. He had not acted for Noah. He had needed Emily's paycheck. What did you tell me? That the baby didn't survive. And Daniel? That you died from complications. For 6 years, Emily had believed her child was buried. Daniel had believed the child's mother was dead. One man had fed them separate lies. How much did he pay you? $200,000 up front. The rest went into a trust. You sold your grandson. I was promised more. That is what you regret? Whitmore cheated me. No. He protected Noah from you. Emily reached for her phone. Frank blocked the door. You cannot call the police. You forged documents and stole a newborn. I am your father. You stopped being my father when you carried my baby out of that hospital. The sedan flashed its headlights. Frank glanced outside. Those men are not police. Who are they? People I owe. He pulled a duffel bag from beneath the table and began stuffing it with cash, medication, and papers. An old envelope fell to the floor. Daniel Whitmore's name was written across it. Emily grabbed it before Frank could. Inside was a letter dated 6 years earlier. Emily, I returned to your apartment, but your father said you left Chicago. I should never have disappeared without telling you the truth. My name is Daniel Whitmore. The danger from that night is not over, but I am trying to make it safe. Please contact me. I need to know you are all right. Emily read it twice. You told me he never came back. Frank's voice dropped. He would have ruined your life. You did that yourself. A fist struck the apartment door. Frank seized his bag. Leave through the fire stairs. Those men will not care who you are. Emily hid the letter inside her coat and climbed down into the alley. Before she reached the street, she heard the door break open behind her. She did not look back. Across the city, Daniel stood in his study with the bracelet on his desk. Since Emily mentioned the engraving, a memory had been moving at the edge of his mind. Blood on his shirt, freezing rain, and a young waitress opening the back door of a diner. 6 years earlier, Victor Hale had invited him to a private fundraising dinner near the river. Daniel was preparing to take control of Whitmore Medical, while Victor wanted the same hospital contracts. Daniel drank half a glass of bourbon before the room blurred. Victor leaned close and said he looked unwell. 2 men offered to take him upstairs. Daniel recognized one as a private investigator who had followed him for weeks. They wanted photographs, a scandal, or his signature while he was drugged. Daniel struck one man and escaped through a service corridor. He made it 3 blocks before collapsing behind a 24-hour diner. The waitress who found him noticed men searching the street and hid him inside a delivery van. Her name tag said Emily. She took him to her small apartment because he refused a hospital. He called himself David, afraid Victor's people would trace his real name. Emily cleaned the wound near his ribs, gave him water, and stayed awake until his breathing steadied. She had cut her wrist on broken glass at work, and Daniel wrapped it with the last clean bandage. They spoke until dawn. Emily admitted she supported a father who gambled away most of her earnings. Daniel confessed that his family treated affection as weakness and loyalty as a contract. That night, 2 frightened strangers found comfort in each other. By morning, Daniel's security team had located him. He left before Emily woke because Victor's men were still close. He intended to return once she was safe. 3 days later, Frank answered the apartment door. Emily had left Chicago, he claimed, and never wanted Daniel to contact her. Daniel sent letters, but none received a reply. Weeks later, Frank reported that Emily had been pregnant and died during childbirth. He arrived carrying a newborn wrapped in a blue blanket. Noah. Frank produced hospital forms, a birth record, and a statement naming Daniel as the father. Daniel's own test later confirmed paternity. Grief and guilt kept him from questioning the rest. Now Daniel opened the scanned records his attorney had recovered. The hospital release carried the signature of a doctor who had retired before Noah was born. The supposed death certificate had no state registration number. The lie had been convincing, but not perfect. When Emily returned after midnight, her coat was wet and her face colorless. Daniel met her in the foyer. What happened? She handed him the letter. He recognized his handwriting immediately. Frank kept this? He kept all of them. Daniel looked at her more closely. The same dark eyes, the faint scar on her wrist. You were the woman from the diner. You called yourself David. I was trying to keep you safe. You left without a word. I came back. I know that now. 6 stolen years stood between them. Emily broke the silence. He admitted taking Noah. Daniel's face hardened. Did you record him? No, but the hospital records will show there was no death. He told me you had left before I knew you were pregnant. He told me you never returned. The same betrayal had cut them from opposite sides. Daniel showed her the forged documents. Emily gripped the edge of the desk. I want the DNA test tonight. Daniel called his family's private medical service. A technician arrived before 2 in the morning. Samples were taken from Emily, Daniel, and Noah while the boys slept, unaware that the adults were determining whether his childhood had begun with a crime. The results would take 24 hours. While they waited, Daniel brought Emily to the family archive. Boxes of Noah's photographs, hospital bracelets, first shoes, school drawings, and birthday cards filled an entire cabinet. Emily touched a picture of Noah at 6 months old. He was asleep against Daniel's chest, one tiny hand gripping the collar of his shirt. "You kept everything," she said. "I thought one day his mother's family might want to see it. You believed I was dead. I still wanted him to know he had been loved before he knew us." Daniel opened another album. Noah's first steps had been taken in the library. His first word had been light. At age 3, he had refused to sleep unless someone hummed to him. Emily's eyes filled. "That was the song I sang while I was pregnant." Daniel closed the album slowly. Then some part of him remembered you before either of us understood why. The tenderness of the moment did not erase Daniel's guilt. He admitted he should have investigated Frank more carefully, instead of trusting paperwork and grief. Emily did not excuse him, but she saw the truth in the way every page showed a father who had stayed. "We cannot recover his first 6 years," she said. "We can only decide what happens after tonight." Margaret learned about the test at breakfast. "If this becomes public, the company will suffer." "My son was stolen from his mother," Daniel replied. "The company is not the victim. We still do not know that." "I do." "Because of one letter?" "Because I remember her." Sophia entered before the conversation ended. She heard enough to understand that Emily was no longer merely a rival. By noon, an anonymous message reached a gossip website. It claimed a household employee had entered Daniel's marriage competition and was now pretending to be Noah's mother to gain access to the Whitmore fortune. Reporters gathered outside the gates. Margaret accused Emily of bringing chaos into the family. Daniel ordered security to clear the property and demanded that the candidates surrender their phones. Sophia denied leaking anything. Noah heard the argument and ran downstairs. "Why are people saying Emily wants to steal me?" Emily knelt before him. She wanted to tell him the truth, but they needed proof first. "No one is taking you anywhere. Are you leaving?" "No." "Promise." This time, fear stopped her from answering. Daniel stepped closer. "We are trying to understand something important." "About my mom?" The room went silent. Noah looked at Emily, then at the bracelet in Daniel's hand. Daniel's phone rang. The laboratory director spoke for less than a minute. When Daniel ended the call, every person in the room was watching him. "The results are ready," he said. Margaret whispered, "And?" Daniel crossed toward Emily slowly. "You are Noah's biological mother." Noah stared at her. Emily covered her mouth, but a sob escaped. Daniel's voice broke as he added, "And I am his father." The truth had finally returned Noah to both of them. But beyond the gates, the first false headline was already spreading across Chicago, and Frank Carter had vanished before anyone could make him answer for what he had done. The DNA result did not bring instant joy. It brought silence. Noah stood in the library, looking from Daniel to Emily as if the adults had begun speaking a language he did not understand. Emily wanted to run to him, but she stayed still. After 6 years of absence, she could not claim the right to touch him simply because a laboratory had confirmed what her heart already knew. Daniel knelt beside his son. "Noah, Emily is your birth mother." The boy's face tightened. "You said my mother died." "That is what I believed." "Did she know where I was?" Emily answered. "No, I was told you died." Noah stared at her. "Who told you?" "My father." "Your dad lied about me?" "Yes." The word broke something inside her. "Then why didn't you look for me?" "I did not know there was anyone to find, but I was here." "I know. I am sorry for every birthday, every fever, and every nightmare I missed. I would have come for you if I had known." Noah ran upstairs. Emily started after him, but Daniel stopped her gently. "Give him a moment. I have already given him 6 years. You did not choose that, but he still needs time to understand." The truth had made Emily a mother again, yet it could not erase the years between them. Noah loved her, but that love was now tangled with confusion and the fear that another adult might disappear. Daniel ended the marriage selection immediately. Vanessa packed within an hour. Before leaving, she asked whether the non-disclosure agreement still applied. Sophia was less graceful. "So that is it?" A DNA test appears and the maid becomes part of the family? Emily was always part of Noah's family, Daniel said. None of us knew it. You invited us here and let us rearrange our lives. I invited you to show who you were. You did. Isabella remained calm because she was already planning her next move. She congratulated Daniel, embraced Margaret, and later sent Victor Hale a message saying the Whitmore family was divided and vulnerable. After the candidates left, Margaret confronted Daniel. You cannot place Emily beside Noah and pretend the past never happened. No one is pretending. She may demand custody. She is his mother. Emily entered before the argument continued. I am not taking Noah away. Margaret studied her. What do you want? The chance to know my son. And money? Nothing. Emily removed the employee badge from her faded uniform and placed it on the table. I entered this house to clean rooms. I stayed because Noah needed someone who saw him. I loved him before I knew he was mine. If I wanted Daniel's fortune, I would not have spent 11 months scrubbing floors for an hourly wage. Daniel told Margaret the subject was closed. Outside the estate, however, the story was already changing shape. A tabloid claimed a domestic worker had infiltrated a billionaire's home, manipulated his child, and then declared herself the boy's mother. Television trucks appeared beyond the gates. Noah saw the story on a classmate's phone the next morning. Your maid sold you once, the boy said. Now she wants to buy you back. Noah shoved him. The school called Daniel before lunch. Noah sat in the principal's office with a split lip and clenched fists. I told him she didn't sell me. You were right to defend her, Daniel said, but not to hit him. He said she was lying. Then we answer with the truth. At home, Noah avoided Emily until evening. She found him beside his bed, holding the silver bracelet. Did you put this on me? He asked. Yes. Do you remember my face? Only for a moment. You had dark hair, and you held my finger. Did you love me then? I loved you before you were born. Do you love me now because you know I'm yours? No. I loved you when I thought you belonged to someone else. The answer reached him. Noah crossed the room and placed the bracelet in her hand. Can you put it on me again? Emily fastened it around his wrist. When he leaned into her, she held him carefully. I'm still mad, he whispered. You are allowed to be. Are you leaving? No. Even if Dad gets sick? Especially then. Downstairs, Daniel and his attorney reviewed the agreement Frank had signed 6 years earlier. Frank had accepted $200,000 in cash and claimed it covered Emily's hospital expenses and funeral. The rest of the promised money had been placed in a trust for Noah. Frank had expected millions he could spend immediately. When Daniel protected the money, Frank decided he had been cheated. The documents also contained a sworn statement declaring Emily dead. Daniel handed them to her. He did not only take Noah, he said. He erased you. Emily studied her father's signature. I need to hear him say why. Frank contacted her first. He called from an illegal gambling room behind an abandoned auto shop and demanded money. He threatened to release papers, claiming Emily had surrendered her child willingly. Emily agreed to meet him while wearing a recording device. Daniel waited nearby with security. Frank sat beneath a flickering light, surrounded by betting slips and an untouched glass of bourbon. You brought the money, he asked. I brought the hospital records. Truth does not pay debts. How much do you owe? More than you could earn in 10 lifetimes. Then why keep gambling? Because one win fixes everything. One lie ruined everything. Emily placed the documents on the table. You signed Noah out while I was unconscious. You told me he died, then gave him to Daniel. I gave him a better life. You sold him. I made a decision you were too weak to make. I had just given birth. You were going to stop working. Who was supposed to pay the rent? Who was supposed to cover what I owed? There it was. He had not acted for Noah. He had feared losing Emily's paycheck. You traded my child so I could keep supporting you. Frank leaned forward. You think love feeds a baby? Whitmore gave that boy everything. You should thank me. Did you ever wonder what losing him did to me? You survived. I learned how to move while part of me was buried. Frank's eyes remained cold. How much did Daniel pay you? Not enough. You received $200,000 and lost it. How quickly? 3 months. Emily stared at him. I was close to winning it back, he said. You would do it again. I would do what was necessary. Emily rose. You will never receive another dollar from me. Frank grabbed her arm. You owe me. I raised you. You used me. If you walk out, I tell the press you knew about the deal. Emily looked at his hand until he released her. They already have your edited story. Now they will hear your voice admitting the truth. She touched the hidden recorder. Frank overturned the table. Daniel and 2 security officers entered immediately, but Frank escaped through a rear door before police arrived. He left behind forged identification cards, gambling records, and messages from Victor Hale. Victor had promised to clear part of Frank's debt if he helped destroy Daniel's reputation. He had paid for the false article, the edited audio, and the claim that Emily had sold Noah. Daniel wanted the recording released immediately. Emily chose to speak publicly herself. The press conference took place at Whitmore Medical. Emily stood at the podium without designer clothes or prepared tears. She described waking after childbirth and being told her son was dead. She presented the bracelet receipt, the hospital release, the DNA result, and Frank's confession. I did not return for money, she said. I returned because I discovered that the child I mourned was alive. I cannot recover the years stolen from us, but I will not allow another lie to define our future. A forensic expert confirmed the earlier audio had been assembled from unrelated conversations. The maternity nurse testified that Frank removed the baby before Emily regained consciousness. Public opinion shifted. The woman called a fortune hunter became the mother whose child had been taken. Reporters began asking why hospital safeguards had failed and how easily a grieving young woman had been deceived. Afterward, Margaret approached Emily. I was wrong about you. Emily waited. I thought protecting this family meant protecting its name. You protected Noah when none of us were watching. It was not a complete apology, but it was honest. Police obtained warrants for Frank's arrest and opened an investigation into Victor. Frank never returned to his apartment. 2 days later, his car was found near the Chicago River during a snowstorm. The driver's door was open. A blood-stained Cubs cap lay on the ice, but there was no body. The loan sharks denied seeing him. Airport records showed no confirmed departure. His phone went dark shortly after 2 in the morning. Detectives said Frank might be dead, hiding, or living under another identity. Do you want us to keep searching? Daniel asked. Emily looked toward the staircase, where Noah was waiting. He spent 6 years making me believe my son was gone. I will not spend the rest of my life chasing him. That night, Noah asked, Is Grandpa coming back? I don't know. Are you scared? Emily took his hand. Not anymore. For the first time, the truth seemed stronger than Frank's lies. But as Emily leaned down to kiss Noah goodnight, Daniel gripped the doorway behind her. A sudden pain tore through his chest, stealing his breath before he could call her name. Daniel tried to straighten himself before Emily turned around, but the pain had already spread across his chest. His fingers tightened around the doorframe, and the color drained from his face. Daniel? He opened his mouth, but no sound came. Emily reached him just as his knees gave way. Noah screamed from the bed while she lowered Daniel carefully to the floor. Call 911, she told him. Tell them your father is conscious but having trouble breathing. Noah's hands shook as he grabbed the phone. Emily loosened Daniel's collar and kept him still. Look at me, she said. Do not close your eyes. I'm fine. You are on the floor. The pain will pass. Then let it pass while you stay awake. Daniel attempted a weak smile, but another spasm made his body tense. Emily counted his breaths and watched his pulse beneath his jaw until sirens entered the estate. Paramedics placed him on a stretcher. Noah tried to follow without shoes. Emily caught him and wrapped a coat around his shoulders. I'm going with Dad. So am I. Margaret arrived in the hallway as the stretcher passed. One look at Daniel's face was enough to silence every question. At Whitmore Medical Center, the emergency department cleared a private trauma room. Doctors ordered scans, blood tests, and cardiac monitoring. Daniel remained conscious, but the pain near his ribs had become constant. Emily sat with Noah in the waiting area. He had stopped crying, which worried her more than tears would have. Is Dad dying? He asked. The doctors are helping him. That isn't what I asked. Emily took his cold hands between hers. I don't know what will happen tonight, but I know he is fighting to stay with you. With us, Noah corrected. With us. Margaret sat across from them. For once, she did not correct Noah or question Emily's place beside him. She only stared at the doors Daniel had disappeared behind. 3 hours later, Dr. Samuel Reed entered. He had treated Daniel after his first surgery and did not attempt to soften the facts. The tumors have grown faster than the last scan suggested. One is pressing against tissue, near the heart, which caused tonight's episode. Margaret stood. Can you operate? Not safely at this stage. What can you do? We begin intensive treatment immediately. Chemotherapy, targeted therapy, and continuous monitoring. If his body responds, we may be able to reduce the tumors enough to consider surgery later. And if it doesn't? Emily asked. Dr. Reed paused. Then his condition could deteriorate quickly. Noah heard every word. How long does he have? The doctor looked toward Emily, unsure whether to answer. Daniel's voice came from behind them. He has as long as he needs. A nurse pushed him into the waiting area in a wheelchair. He looked exhausted, but he lifted one hand toward Noah. The boy ran to him. You scared me. I know. You promised you weren't leaving. I am still here. Noah buried his face against Daniel's chest. Daniel winced, but did not push him away. The treatment was scheduled to begin the following morning. Daniel refused to stay overnight until Emily blocked the exit. You can barely stand. I have a board meeting at 9. You have cancer pressing near your heart. Victor has been buying votes since the story broke. Then let him collect votes while you stay alive. Daniel's eyes hardened. If he takes the company, he controls Noah's trust and the hospitals. Not if you prepare someone else to stop him. Who? Emily did not answer immediately. Daniel understood. You are not walking into that boardroom. Why not? You have never managed a corporation. I managed your son's medical emergency, while 3 wealthy women stood frozen. I faced reporters who had already decided I was guilty. I confronted the man who stole my child. I can sit at a table and tell Victor no. This is different. It is only different because the people in that room wear expensive suits. Margaret surprised them both. She is right. Daniel stared at his mother. Margaret continued. Victor expects me to protect appearances. He expects Emily to remain silent. He will not expect the two of us to arrive together. Emily looked at her. It was the first time Margaret had spoken as though they stood on the same side. Daniel finally agreed to remain in the hospital, but only after his attorney brought a stack of documents to his room. The first transferred temporary voting authority over Noah's trust to Emily and Margaret jointly. The second gave Emily access to Daniel's medical and legal decisions if he became unable to act. The third recognized her as Noah's legal parent, pending final family court approval. Emily stopped reading. You prepared these already? After the DNA results? You expected this to happen? I expected Victor to use my illness. That is not what I asked. Daniel looked toward Noah, who had fallen asleep in a chair. I have known for months that the cancer could return. You told me nothing. You had just learned your son was alive. So you decided I could only survive one truth at a time. I decided Noah needed stability. He needs honesty. Daniel's voice dropped. He needs someone who will still be here if I am not. Emily pushed the papers away. I will sign what protects Noah, but I will not participate in your farewell. This is not a farewell. You are transferring your life piece by piece, as though you have already lost it. I am preparing. You are surrendering politely. Daniel turned toward the window. Snow moved past the glass in thin white lines. When you run a company, preparation is survival. When you love a family, survival is staying long enough to let them love you back. The words struck him harder than anger would have. Emily signed the guardianship papers but left the medical directive untouched. You signed this only after you promised to fight through treatment. Medical documents are not bargains. This one is. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. I promise. The next morning, Emily and Margaret entered the Whitmore Medical boardroom together. Victor Hale sat at the head of the table as though the seat already belonged to him. He wore a dark suit and the calm expression of a man who believed every crisis had been purchased in advance. I heard Daniel was admitted, he said. Tragic timing. "You sound disappointed he survived the night," Emily replied. Several directors looked up. Victor smiled. "And you must be the former housekeeper." "She is Noah Whitmore's mother," Margaret said. "She also holds Daniel's proxy." Victor's smile faded. He presented a motion declaring Daniel temporarily unfit to serve as chief executive. He argued that the scandal surrounding Noah, the unresolved investigation into Frank, and Daniel's illness placed the company at risk. Emily listened without interruption. Then Victor displayed edited photographs of Frank entering a betting office and claimed Daniel had paid him to disappear. He suggested the entire child abduction story had been designed to protect the Whitmore name. One director asked why law enforcement had not charged Daniel. "Power delays consequences," Victor said. Emily opened the folder Daniel's attorney had given her. "Power also creates records." She displayed wire transfers from a consulting firm connected to Victor. Payments had been made to the tabloid that published the false story and to an account used by Frank days before he vanished. Victor dismissed the transfers as routine media consulting. Emily produced a message recovered from Frank's gambling phone. "Make Whitmore look unstable. Make the mother look greedy. The board will do the rest." Victor's initials appeared at the bottom. "That proves nothing," he said. "It proves enough to delay your vote until investigators review the evidence," Margaret replied. A director requested an immediate recess. Victor stood and approached Emily after the others left. "You think one dramatic speech makes you powerful? No. You are here because Daniel feels guilty. I am here because you threatened my son. You have no idea how quickly this family will turn on you when Daniel is gone." Emily stepped closer. "He is not gone. He will be." The certainty in Victor's voice made her understand that his plan was larger than the board vote. He had built his strategy around Daniel's death. She returned to the hospital with that knowledge pressing against her. Daniel began treatment that afternoon. The first infusion lasted 6 hours. He read reports for the first 2, argued with the nurses during the third, and became too weak to sit upright by the fourth. Emily remained beside him. "You should be at home with Noah," he said. "He is with Margaret." I never thought I would hear those words. Neither did she. A faint smile appeared, then disappeared when nausea hit. Emily helped him through it without embarrassment or pity. When it passed, Daniel closed his eyes. "I hate this. I know. I built hospitals so people would not have to feel helpless. And now you are learning hospitals cannot remove helplessness. They only give people a place to fight it." He looked at her. "Where did you learn to speak like that? From losing a child? I thought I could not save." Daniel reached for her hand. "You did save him. Not then. No. But you came back." Over the next several days, Daniel's condition worsened before showing any sign of improvement. He developed fever, weakness, and violent tremors. Food lost its taste. Sleep came in fragments. Noah visited every afternoon after school. He brought drawings but refused to leave them on the wall. "You have to come home to see the rest," he said. On the 5th day, he asked Emily why Daniel's hair had begun to fall out. "Because the medicine is attacking the sick cells," she explained. "Does it know which ones are sick? It tries. What if it makes a mistake? Then the doctors help his body recover." Noah considered this. Can love help? Emily wanted to offer a comforting answer, but she had promised him honesty. Love cannot replace medicine, but it can give someone a reason to endure it. Noah climbed onto the chair beside Daniel. "Then we need more reasons." That evening, he began making a calendar. 30 blank squares covered a large poster board. In the first square, he wrote, "Day 1, stay, because I still need you." Daniel read it and turned his face away before Noah could see his tears. At the company, Victor refused to retreat. He contacted major investors and warned that Daniel's treatment could last months. He claimed Emily was unqualified, Margaret was emotionally compromised, and the company needed decisive leadership. The board scheduled another vote for the end of the month. Emily divided her days between the hospital, Noah, and meetings with Daniel's legal team. She learned the company's structure, read financial reports at midnight, and questioned every contract Victor had approved. She discovered that 3 clinics had been sold below market value to shell companies connected to Victor. She also found unusual payments labeled security consulting from the night Daniel had been drugged 6 years earlier. Daniel had suspected Victor, but never obtained proof. Now the old attack and the present takeover began to form one continuous plan. Emily showed the records to federal investigators. By the second week, Victor was no longer merely fighting for control. He was trying to destroy evidence before authorities could reach it. A server room at one clinic caught fire. Backup files disappeared. A former accountant who had agreed to testify suddenly withdrew. Daniel demanded to leave the hospital. "You cannot walk across the room," Emily said. "I can still think. Then think from here. He is erasing everything." "Not everything." She showed him a drive containing copies of the recovered contracts and payment logs. "I sent duplicates to the investigators, the board, and 3 separate attorneys." Daniel Kindhearted. "When did you become this dangerous?" "The day everyone assumed a woman in a maid's uniform would never understand what they were saying." For the first time since treatment began, he laughed. The moment was brief. That night, his oxygen levels dropped, and the medical team rushed into the room. Emily was pushed into the hallway, where Noah and Margaret had just arrived. Through the glass, they watched doctors surround Daniel's bed. Noah clutched Emily's coat. "Is this because the medicine is not working?" "We do not know yet. You promised he would fight. He is fighting. What if fighting is not enough?" Emily knelt and held his face between her hands. "Then we stay beside him so he never fights alone." Dr. Reed emerged after 20 minutes. Daniel had developed inflammation near his lungs, a known but serious complication. They had stabilized him, but the next several days would determine whether treatment could continue. Margaret sat down as though her legs had stopped working. Noah walked to the calendar and filled another square. Day 14. "Stay because Mom found us, and we cannot lose you now." Emily read the word Mom several times. It was the first time Noah had written it for her. She entered Daniel's room after midnight. Machines breathed and beeped around him. He opened his eyes when she sat beside him. "Noah called me Mom." Daniel's lips moved in a tired smile. "He chose you before the test began. He still needs you. You both have each other. That is not permission to leave. I am trying. Try harder." Daniel looked at her hand resting beside his. "Emily, if this ends badly..." "No. You need to hear me. I have heard enough people explain what they took from me. I am not listening to you explain how to lose you, too." Silence filled the room. Then Daniel reached for her fingers. "I loved you before I knew your last name," he said. "I looked for you after one night because it was the first time I had felt known. When Frank told me you were dead, part of me accepted that I did not deserve anything better." Emily's eyes burned. "You do not get to turn guilt into a death sentence. I do not know how to promise a future." "Then promise tomorrow." He held her hand more tightly. "Tomorrow?" By the 20th day, the doctor saw the first measurable reduction in one tumor. It was small, but real. Daniel remained fragile, and the danger had not passed. The board vote was 10 days away. Victor was still free. Frank remained missing. The treatment could fail without warning. But for the first time, hope had evidence. Noah added another line to his calendar. Day 20. "Stay because we are finally 3 people, not 3 separate stories." Daniel read it from his hospital bed. Then an alarm sounded from the monitor above him, and the rhythm on the screen changed so suddenly that every hopeful face in the room froze. The alarm above Daniel's bed cut through the room like a blade. Dr. Reed rushed in with 2 nurses while Emily pulled Noah back before the medical team surrounded the bed. "His heart rhythm is unstable," one nurse said. Daniel's eyes remained open, but his breathing became shallow. The monitor jumped again. "Charge. Clear." The room flashed white. Noah buried his face in Emily's coat. "Make them stop. They are helping him. It looks like they are hurting him." Emily wanted to promise Daniel would be all right, but she had learned what false promises could cost. She only held Noah tighter. After several unbearable minutes, the alarm changed. The rhythm steadied, still weak but regular. Dr. Reed ordered everyone out except the nurses. Margaret led Noah into the waiting area. Emily remained near the door until Dr. Reed joined her. "The treatment caused inflammation around the heart," he explained. "We controlled the arrhythmia, but his body is under severe stress. Are you stopping the therapy? For 48 hours. If his heart stabilizes, we continue at a reduced dose. If it does not, we will have fewer options. Emily looked through the glass. Daniel seemed smaller beneath the sheets than the man who once filled boardrooms without raising his voice. When she entered, he turned his head. Is Noah frightened? Yes. Daniel closed his eyes. I keep doing that to him. You are sick. That is not the same as abandoning him. It feels the same from his side. Then stay long enough to teach him the difference. He looked at her, exhausted. You make survival sound like an order. It is. The next 2 days passed without another cardiac episode. Daniel could barely eat, yet every morning he asked which square Noah had filled on the calendar. On day 21, Noah wrote, Stay because I still need someone to teach me how to lose without cheating. On day 22, Stay because Mom laughs differently when you are awake. Emily tried to hide that line before Daniel saw it. Noah stopped her. It's true. Daniel looked at Emily after reading it. Do not make a speech, she warned. I was going to say your laugh is rare. It has had limited reasons. Then I owe you more. The doctors restarted treatment at a lower dose. This time, Daniel's body tolerated it. His fever decreased, his oxygen improved, and he began walking short distances with a therapist. Progress came in humiliating inches. The man who once crossed the city between meetings now needed help to stand. He refused the wheelchair until his legs buckled. Emily caught him beneath the arms. Let go. When you can stand, I hate you seeing me like this. I have seen you unconscious in an alley with one shoe. That was different. It was less dignified. A reluctant smile reached his face. It was the first sign that the illness had not taken everything. While Daniel regained strength, investigators recovered backup files Victor's employees had failed to destroy. The records showed bribes, fraudulent property sales, payments to the tabloid that attacked Emily, and money sent to the men who drugged Daniel 6 years earlier. Victor called an emergency board vote before an arrest warrant could be issued. Daniel attended by video from the hospital. Emily and Margaret sat in the boardroom while his image appeared on the wall. Victor looked calm until Daniel spoke. You built your takeover around my death, Daniel said. That was your first mistake. Your condition proves the company needs stable leadership. Stability does not come from fraud. Emily distributed the recovered contracts. Victor scanned the first page, then looked toward the door. You have no authority to hold me here. No, Emily said. But they do. Federal agents entered before he reached the elevator. Victor was arrested for conspiracy, wire fraud, bribery, destruction of evidence, and involvement in the attack on Daniel. As he was led away, he turned toward Emily. You still think this family will accept you? She did not answer. She no longer needed his permission to belong. The board restored Daniel's authority and opened an independent review. Emily declined an executive position but accepted responsibility for Noah's trust and the company's family assistance programs. When she returned to the hospital, Daniel was asleep. Noah sat beside him, drawing 3 people beneath a crooked blue roof. Is that our house? Emily asked. No, it's smaller. Why? So Dad doesn't have to walk so far when he comes home. On day 26, scans showed the largest tumor had shrunk enough to reduce pressure near Daniel's heart. Dr. Reed warned that the cancer had not disappeared, but the immediate danger had lessened. So I am not cured, Daniel said. No, but you are responding. That gives us choices we did not have a month ago. Daniel looked at Emily and Noah. What do I need to do to go home? The answer involved walking, eating, stable blood tests, and continuing treatment. Daniel approached each requirement as though it were a negotiation he intended to win. He drank shakes he hated, completed every therapy session, and stopped pretending pain did not exist. When he needed help, he finally asked for it. Emily noticed the change. Daniel had always believed protecting people meant hiding weakness. Now he was learning that love also required allowing others to remain when he had nothing impressive to offer. On day 28, Margaret brought a box from the mansion. Inside were the letters Daniel had written to Emily 6 years earlier. I found them among the custody documents Frank left behind, she said. Emily read them one by one. Daniel apologized for leaving without an explanation, revealed his real name, and promised to return when the danger passed. The final letter had been written after Frank claimed she had died. It contained one sentence: "I will spend the rest of my life making sure our son knows the woman who saved us both." Emily carried it into Daniel's room. "You meant this? I thought you were gone. You kept looking until Frank brought Noah. And then I believed grief was all I had left." Emily sat beside him. "We lost 6 years because we trusted the wrong man. We are not losing another day because we are afraid to say what we want." Daniel searched her face. "What do you want?" "You alive, Noah safe, and a life where neither of us disappears without speaking." He reached for her hand. "I want that too." On day 29, Daniel developed a sudden fever. For several hours, the discharge plan seemed impossible. Noah sat beside the calendar, refusing to fill the final square. "What if I write it and he cannot come home?" "Then we change the date," Emily said. "But day 30 is supposed to be the end." "No, it is only the end of the calendar." By morning, the fever broke. His tests stabilized, and Dr. Reed approved his release under strict conditions. Noah filled the final square in large letters. Day 30. "Stay because we finally found each other." Daniel read it slowly. "I stayed." Noah shook his head. "We all did." The staff lined the hallway when Daniel left. He walked several steps with a cane, then accepted the wheelchair before exhaustion defeated him. Outside, Chicago was beginning to thaw. Snow still covered the sidewalks, but dark lines of pavement appeared beneath the melting ice. At the mansion, the staff had prepared flowers and banners. Daniel asked them to remove most of it. "I want quiet," he said, "and soup." Emily smiled. "That can be arranged." Noah led him into the library, where the marriage selection had begun. The candidates, cameras, and carefully arranged chairs were gone. Only the 3 of them remained. Daniel looked around. This room used to feel larger. "It was emptier," Noah said. He stood between Daniel and Emily, holding both their hands. "Now that Mom found me, and you came home, are we a real family?" Daniel looked at Emily. The answer was already in his eyes, but neither adult knew Noah had hidden the silver bracelet and a small ring box beneath the library table, waiting for the moment that would decide how their story ended. Noah's question remained between them. "Now that Mom found me and you came home, are we a real family?" Daniel looked at Emily, then at the boy holding both their hands. For years he had believed a family could be protected through legal documents, money, and careful planning. But none of those things had stopped Frank's lie, Victor's betrayal, or the illness that nearly took him away. Emily knelt beside Noah. "A real family is not perfect," she said. "It is made of people who choose to stay, tell the truth, and take care of one another." Noah looked at Daniel. "Are you choosing to stay? As long as I am given the chance. That isn't a promise." Daniel smiled faintly. "Then I promise to keep fighting for every day I can have with you." Noah nodded, satisfied. Then he released their hands and crawled beneath the library table. Emily exchanged a confused look with Daniel. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I hid something." Noah reappeared, holding a small ring box and the silver bracelet. Daniel recognized the box immediately. "I asked Grandma to get it from your desk," Noah said. "She said it belonged to you, but I think it belongs to Mom." Daniel looked toward the doorway. Margaret stood there with tears in her eyes. "I may have helped a little," she admitted. Daniel took the box, but he did not open it immediately. He looked at Emily as though the room had emptied around them. "When this began, I invited 3 women into this house because I believed I could select the right person to care for Noah. I treated love like a position that needed to be filled." Emily sat beside him. "You were afraid. I was also wrong." Daniel opened the box. Inside was a simple diamond ring, elegant but smaller than anything the Whitmore family usually displayed. "I bought this before I entered the hospital," he said. "I did not know if I would ever have the courage or the time to give it to you." Noah pushed the silver bracelet toward him. "Use both." Daniel placed the bracelet beside the ring. "This bracelet carried the truth when every adult around us believed a lie," he said. "It brought you back to Noah. It brought you back to me." Emily's eyes filled. "I cannot return the years we lost. I cannot promise that my health will never frighten you again. But I can promise that there will be no more secrets, no more disappearing, and no more decisions made without you." He slowly lowered himself onto one knee. The effort made him wince, but when Emily reached to help him, he shook his head. "Emily Carter, will you marry me not because Noah needs a mother, not because I need someone to save me, but because I love the woman who did both before she knew she had any reason to?" Noah whispered, "Say yes." Emily laughed through her tears. "Yes." Noah threw his arms around them before Daniel could place the ring on her finger. From the doorway, Margaret covered her mouth. For the first time since Emily entered the mansion, she did not see a maid, a scandal, or a threat to the family name. She saw the woman who had held the family together when wealth and influence had failed. In the weeks that followed, the mansion changed. Emily no longer wore the faded blue uniform, though she kept it folded in a box. It reminded her of the days she had loved Noah, without knowing why her heart recognized him. Daniel returned to work gradually. He no longer spent every hour at the hospital headquarters, or treated exhaustion like proof of strength. He delegated authority, attended therapy, followed his treatment schedule, and came home for dinner. Noah monitored him more strictly than any doctor. "You skipped your shake. It tastes terrible. You said fighting means doing things you hate." Daniel looked at Emily. "He remembers everything. He is your son. He gets that from you." The family court formally recognized Emily as Noah's mother. The judge reviewed the DNA evidence, hospital records, and Frank's confession before signing the order. When Emily saw her name beside Noah's on the document, she did not feel as though the law had made her his mother. It had simply corrected a lie. Noah asked to change nothing else. "I want Whitmore because it is Dad's name," he explained, "but I want Carter too because it is Mom's." Daniel supported the decision. Noah became Noah Carter Whitmore. The name did not erase the past. It carried both sides of the truth. The police investigation into Frank remained open. His car had been recovered, but no confirmed trace of him was found. Some believed he had fallen into the river. Others suspected he had crossed the border with false identification. Emily stopped asking. For years, Frank had controlled her life through fear, debt, and lies. Whether he was dead or hiding no longer mattered. He would never receive another dollar from her, and he would never again come between her and Noah. Victor's case moved quickly. The recovered financial records connected him to the attack on Daniel, the media campaign against Emily, and the destruction of evidence. He attempted to blame Frank, but investigators proved Victor had funded the operation. Several of his associates accepted plea deals and agreed to testify. Daniel attended the first hearing but refused to make the case personal. "I do not need revenge," he told Emily outside the courthouse. "I need him unable to hurt anyone else." Whitmore Medical created an independent ethics board and restored the clinics Victor had tried to sell. Daniel also announced a new foundation in Emily's name. The Carter Family Recovery Fund provided legal assistance to parents whose children had been taken through forged documents, coercion, or fraud. It also offered emergency support to young mothers trapped by abusive or financially controlling relatives. Emily resisted having her name attached to it. "I do not want people thinking I did this for attention." Daniel answered, "Your name is not there because you need attention. It is there so another frightened mother knows someone believes her." The first family helped by the foundation was a young woman whose infant had been placed for adoption without her informed consent. When mother and child were reunited, Emily stayed in the hallway, allowing them privacy. Daniel found her crying. "Does this bring everything back?" "Yes." "Do you want to leave?" "No. I want to remember why we are here." The wedding took place in the mansion garden at the beginning of spring. Emily refused a ballroom filled with investors and celebrities. She wanted only the people who had stood beside them when the outcome was uncertain. Dr. Reed attended with several nurses from Daniel's treatment team. The maternity nurse who had testified against Frank sat near the front. Members of the household staff were invited as guests, not employees. Margaret helped Emily prepare. She fastened a small pearl necklace around her neck and then met her eyes in the mirror. "I owe you more than an apology. You already apologized. I judged your value by what you owned. I nearly pushed away the one person who loved my grandson without conditions." Emily turned toward her. You were afraid of losing your son. So were you. Margaret took her hand. And you still showed more courage. Outside, Noah waited at the end of the aisle holding the ring box. The silver bracelet remained around his wrist. Daniel stood beneath an arch of white flowers. His face was thinner than before treatment, and he still used a cane on difficult days, but he was standing. When Emily reached him, he whispered, "You came back. You finally stayed." The ceremony was simple. Daniel promised never again to confuse protection with control. He promised honesty, partnership, and a home where Noah would never have to wonder whether love could disappear without explanation. Emily promised to stand beside him through healing, fear, and uncertainty. She promised not to let the past make her afraid of the future they had been given. Then she turned to Noah. "I could not hold you for your first 6 years, but I will be here for every year that follows." Noah began crying before she finished. "I already know," he said. After the vows, he handed them the rings and raised his wrist. "We should thank the bracelet, too." Everyone laughed, including Daniel. The final medical results arrived 1 month after the wedding. Emily and Noah sat beside Daniel in Dr. Reed's office, while the doctor reviewed the scans. "The tumors have continued to shrink," he said. "The pressure near the heart is gone, and your blood work is stronger than expected." Daniel remained cautious. "Does that mean remission?" "Not yet, but it means the treatment is working, and your outlook is far better than it was when you entered the hospital." Noah raised his hand. "How much better?" Dr. Reed smiled. "Better enough for your father to plan a long future as long as he keeps following instructions." Noah looked at Daniel. "No skipping shakes. No skipping shakes." Daniel agreed. That evening, the three of them sat together in Noah's room. The drawer where Emily had found the bracelet remained open. Inside were new photographs. Emily and Noah baking cookies, Daniel leaving the hospital, the courthouse ceremony, and the wedding. Noah placed the bracelet back in its velvet box. "Do I have to keep wearing it?" "No," Emily said. "It already did its job." "What was its job?" "To bring the truth home." Noah closed the box and placed it between the family photographs. Then he climbed into bed and took Emily's hand with one of his and Daniel's with the other. 6 years earlier, greed had separated them before they even knew they were a family. A lie had convinced a mother that her son was dead, and a father that the woman he loved was gone. But the truth had survived in a child's bracelet, in an unanswered letter, and in the strange certainty that made Noah trust a poor maid more than every wealthy woman invited to replace his mother. Daniel had searched for a wife. Noah had searched for a mother. Emily had searched for a child she believed she could never find. In the end, none of them found what they expected. They found one another. If this story touched your heart, and you believe true love can survive lies, illness, and lost time, press 1 inch the comments. If it did not connect with you, press 0 and tell us why. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the next story may begin with an injustice, but it may end with a truth no one saw coming.